Hey everybody, Kevin here with Lead Forward. Today I'm going to take you through setting up a integration with Google Workspace, specifically Google Calendar, so that we can pull any scheduled meetings and bookings off of our calendar and sync them over to Lead Forward with the goal in mind to end any sequences that might be active for contacts that have gone ahead and scheduled a meeting with us. For today's example, I'm going to be using Pabbly. You can actually use Zapier if that's your preferred integration connector, or Make, which was Integromat. Both of them have very similar functionality in terms of connecting both Google Workspace, or if you're using Office 365 with Outlook for calendaring. Both of them connect all throughout all three of these applications pretty much the same way. And then also each of them have webhook functionality that allows you to connect that data to Lead Forward. So from Pabbly, the first thing we're going to do is just click Create Workflow. We're going to come up with a name quickly, booked, and sequence. Click Create. So the first step is to pick the application that'll act as our data source for us. That's going to be Google Calendar. And the event that we're going with is going to be a new event, so a new addition to our calendar. Click Connect. This will bring up an OAuth screen. If you don't already have an existing connection, just click Add New, or you can select an existing connection. We have our dummy templated calendar already connected, so I'll click Save. And then it's just going to show us some different calendars, sub-calendars that we might have on our main calendar. Select this one, simple response. Save and test request is just going to pull some sample data from the calendar, and these are basically going to be the data fields that are available from Google Calendar that we can then use to push into Lead Forward. All right, here's our response. Now we can click Save. And we're going to proceed with adding our action. So our action is going to be API. And our action event is going to be post. So I already have a inbound connector set up specifically for this particular integration. If you're not familiar with how inbound connectors or outbound connectors, depending on the type of integration you're trying to do, we have a whole separate article and video devoted to both of those that you can check out. They're both referenced in the article that you're pulling this video from as well. So this is our Google Calendar bookings connector that I created. And the big difference or the big important component here is probably going to be the contact options. So you may have a lot of contacts or bookings that are going through your calendar that are not necessarily part of your prospecting efforts to Lead Forward, and you don't want Pabbly pushing over a bunch of contacts that get created in Lead Forward that are not going to be relevant to your outreach. So one of the options we have for our connectors is to determine what type of data can be transferred. So in this case, we only want to update existing records. So as bookings come in and Pabbly goes to send those bookings over to Lead Forward will check to see, and this will be done by email address, if the contact already exists in the platform. So if the contact doesn't exist in the platform, when update existing only is selected, it's not going to create a new contact. It's just going to close the connection request, and that's going to be the end of it. The other thing I'm going to do is select to overwrite an existing value, even if it has a value already, because in this case, I'm going to create a custom field just to collect the meeting booked property from Pabbly and from Google Calendar, which we'll then be using for automation to end any sequence. So these are the settings that we're using in this particular case. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy over the endpoint for this connector because we'll need that for our Pabbly. And that just goes here in the endpoint URL. Payload type is JSON. Authentication is basic auth. I'm going to actually skip ahead here. If this is the first time you're doing this, please check out some of our other videos in the article specifically around authorization, so you know where to get your authorization key and secrets. I can show you part of that right here. So this is webhooks under the integration manager, and the auth key or auth secret is right in the UI. You can copy it and then add it into your configuration for Pabbly, and it's the same thing for Zapier as well, or Make if you're using those. And then your actual secret would have been sent to you via email when you first signed up and created this particular or when you first connected webhooks. So that would be in your inbox. Hopefully you start it and it's easy to access. I'm actually just going to quickly pull it out of an existing workflow that I already created just to save some time. And if this looks familiar, it is, because we're basically recreating this in this video right now. All right, so that's off. And then the next thing that we're going to do is just set parameters. And the parameters are just another way of saying these are the data objects that we're going to send from the source application, which in our case is Google Calendar. And we're going to send these to Lead Forward. But as we're sending them, we need to know where to put them. So the first value, which is required, is for this is email, because we need to be able to line up an existing contact that's in the platform. So that's going to be done with email address. And now we're going to pick our source for this. So when I put an email here, this was referring to the email data field inside the contact database. And again, if you're just getting into webhooks and configuring any no-code integrations with Lead Forward, the article that's referenced within this article can talk to you more about how the data sync goes in the data mapping. But essentially, what we're doing is using our contacts and any of our custom data field properties. So, here's email, but you can have a whole slew of other ones. And to give you an example, where are we now? Okay, so I need to create it. So we'll just jump ahead. For the Google Calendar integration, we need to have a data field that can store data from Google Calendar that's basically going to indicate that a booking has been made. And I'm just going to make this very simple: meeting booked. And this can just be a simple text field. So I just want to mention too, if you do the save and send test request and you don't get an output that looks like this, you need to go into your calendar and just add a dummy event to your calendar that's sometime after today, and then come back and hit save and send test again just to pull in an example. Sometimes the date and timestamps that they're looking for will only go so far. So if you don't have any immediate bookings coming up in your calendar, it won't be able to pull an example record for us to use as a basis for creating this connector. So this is all the example data now. And if I go back down to map, so in the left column, this is representing data fields that exist in Lead Forward. We're using ours, the label of email, which will go to the email field inside our contact database for the record that we're updating. And this will also be where it's checking to see if a contact already exists based on this value. And the value we want to use is going to be the email address that's assigned to the attendee that's in the booking on our calendar. So we're going to scroll down through here. And this is the complete payload that we received for the event that came across our calendar. So I can scroll down, look for attendee, and I'm going to go with attendee one email address. And that's basically the only data field that we need to pull from the calendar over to Lead Forward for our purposes, which is just to know that a meeting was scheduled, and because that meeting was scheduled, we are going to want to end any automated outreach for the particular contact. So I'm going to add one more data parameter, and that's going to be for the field that I just created, which is meeting booked. And all I'm going to do is have that field propagated with the summary, which is just the name of the meeting. And you'll see when I create the workflow, the idea is going to be that we're going to end um, any sequence that's active for this particular contact based on their email address already existing inside of Lead Forward. We're going to tie that back to an existing contact. And if they're in a sequence, and if we happen to find that now this meeting booked field has a value in it, which would only occur if a meeting was booked and then this integration kicked off, then we're going to end any of those sequences. So that's going to be the underlying rule that we create. So now that we've done this, I'm going to click Save. And this is ready to go. So now we're going to move back to our Lead Forward account to create a quick workflow that's going to make use of this data being synced over to Meeting Booked. All right, so from the Automated Workflows menu, we're going to create a new workflow that is going to be powered by that data field we just created. That's going to be propagated by Google Calendar through Pabbly to indicate that a meeting has been scheduled with a particular contact. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start by configuring the basics on our workflow, which is going to start with a name, meeting booked, and all sequences. We're going to be targeting our contacts database. Matching logic, for this purpose, this is a very simple workflow, so only the current condition is fine. And enrolling multiple, allowing contacts to enroll multiple times, this can be useful, since you could have future sequences and then also future outreach that might be at a different stage of your funnel where having a meeting scheduled could make sense. If so, then you can allow a contact to go through this workflow multiple times. If you're going to do that, you can configure this to be up to 50 times and just separate any enrollments by 5 minutes, because honestly, it would probably be days and days apart anyway, so it doesn't even matter. But if you're only working at top of the funnel, then you probably don't need to worry so much about this. Save changes. So the first thing that we're going to go with is our condition, and that's going to be, in our case, custom fields. The custom field, again, that we're targeting is going to be the new field that we just created, which is meeting booked. And very, very simple logic here, and that's going to be that there's any value provided for that field. So the field isn't blank. So right now, we just created it, so by default, the field is empty for all the contacts in our database. And this field is only going to be used exclusively by Google Calendar through Pabbly. So that means that in order for there to be a value in this field, there needs to be a meeting booked on our calendar in Google Calendar, and then that data would be written to this field. So once the data is written to the field and it's no longer blank, that's going to trigger this workflow. So meeting booked has a value from Google Calendar, add condition. And that's it. That's as simple as the logic is going to be for this one. And then the next step we're going to do is add action. Let's wait 2 minutes. And the action that we're going to go with is transfer end, and this refers to sequences. End any sequence will be the name of our action. We're going to select end, and we're going to click the menu. So you can go and you can select, if this is only going to apply to a specific sequence, you can go and select that specific sequence. I'm going to go with any enrolled sequence because then it will apply. So like, if a prospect goes through one sequence, you may be moving them to then a different sequence if you don't receive a response. So if you select any enrolled sequence, you're going to catch that particular contact. If they're actively engaged on any sequence at the moment that that meeting is booked, all of those sequences are going to end. So I prefer to cast a wide net that'll ensure that any automated outreach stops the moment that booking is made. So now we're going to click add action. That's all the conditional logic that we're going to add. That's the only action that we're going to add. One thing to note that might be important is you could always add an additional condition to filter this down to a specific owner, so sequence owner. So if you have multiple calendars connected, or if you have a general prospect calendar that's shared by your team, and then that data is getting pushed over to lead forward, you may want to say that you only want this to apply to certain users of the lead forward platform. So that would mean that not only does that field meeting booked have to have a value, but then also the particular contact or sequence has to be owned by a specific lead forward platform user. So there's a lot of options if you need to start combining data together. This is obviously the most simple approach, and this probably will address the particular use case that most people are looking for the vast majority of the time. But you can get more complex if need be. And as always, if you run into any issues, you can always reach out to our team for assistance. So I'm just going to click Save and Finish. That's going to complete this particular automation track. And I'm just going to turn it on. And that's just this toggle up here on the right. Now it's on, so now it's working. So as soon as any bookings come in on our calendar, that's going to be picked up by Pabbly. And then that's going to get pushed over to Lead Forward. And that in turn will end any sequence for those contacts that are found to be in lead forward and to also be found in active sequences. So this was obviously using Google Calendar as the test case, but you can use, look at this, quickly show you other options. So you can use Office 365 as well, and that's coverage between Google Calendar and Outlook 365 is probably going to address the vast majority of calendaring, but there's also a Calendly integration that exists that's accessible through, I believe through Pabbly. Yeah, Calendly is available. It certainly is through Zapier and I believe through Make as well. So if you have some other calendaring product that isn't natively integrating with these particular platforms, Calendly typically does cast a wider net for calendar support. So anything that comes into Calendly could then be used in the exact same way that we just configured this using Google Calendar. So again, any issues, any questions as you're trying to configure this, don't hesitate. You can reach us at help@leadforward.com. That's LEADFWD.com. And that's it for this particular video. I hope this works out well for you guys. Again, don't hesitate to reach out anytime. Thank you.